I'd like to introduce Steve Sawyer, who I believe has a little bit of a presentation. Because I'm going to kind of go through a series of slides here, 4 or 5 slides. I'm going to talk to you about, in response, particular response to a question that was recently raised, which was, how have we modified the plan or what's going on? And I want you to understand that final design or the preparation of construction documents for the project that you see on your handout are feverishly being prepared as we speak. One of the activities that I personally, as the engineer running the project, have done in the last couple of weeks is I've met with all of the abutters along the project length. The Baptist Church, Mr. McAvoy, who's in the back room, Bob Mitchell. We met with elder care people this past week. So all of the abutters that have been along the way, we've talked about the project. And I'd like to share with you in the last couple of weeks what we've done in response to meeting with people who live and will be directly impacted by the project. So let's start, first of all, up here at the top. If you remember, or if you've attended earlier meetings, the project limit on the north end actually stopped basically at the Hall Funeral Home or the northerly end of that property. Well, we actually talked about that and we said, well, we're building bike lanes and all of a sudden they're going to stop at the funeral home. Well, unfortunately, that doesn't make a lot of sense. and so we went back and we said, well, you know, what really makes some sense, quite frankly, is there need to be a destination. So you'll notice here, this circle up here indicates that we've actually extended the project 400 feet to Adams Pond Road. So the bike lanes will actually be provided on both sides of the road up to Adams Pond Road. There'll be a crossing there so that bikes will be able to cross 27 and head down Adams Pond Road, and from what we understand, be able to enjoy possibly riding around the pond. So that's the first change that's made, and that's been made in the last few weeks. Second one, now let's go down here, maybe right here on the corner of Common Drive and 27. That's Fish Fry. Had a nice conversation with the owner of that particular business, and we talked about parking. And that's been an issue that we've wrestled with since we got involved in the project back in the spring. Parking is a little uncontrolled there. Some of it's on Common Drive, some of it backs out directly onto 27. The state had some concerns about cars actually backing directly out into travel lanes. And for those of you who have witnessed issues that occur with that, you can appreciate there's some safety concerns there. And so what could we do short of removing the parking? You know, that's the easy thing is, gee, it's not a good idea with such a heavily traveled road, particularly in the summertime, to have cars backing directly out onto the road. Well, there really wasn't a solution we could come up with that addressed that and eliminated the ability for them to back directly out onto 27. So what we've done instead is we've created, and if you look at the plan real closely in front of you, you'll see we've actually created a parking lot, if you will, with 9 spaces that will be paved. It'll be curbed. It's set off the edge of the road. The spaces are 9 by 18 feet, the space itself, but the spaces are located 6 feet further into her property from the edge of the bike lane. So the bike lane is 5 feet wide. We have a buffer zone of 6 feet, and then we have an 18-foot space. So in essence, now what you'll be able to do is pull out 11 feet out of the space directly back before you get into the moving travel lane heading northbound. So while it's keeping the on-street parking, if you will, or the direct parking access to 27 is not the optimum situation, it became the best solution of a difficult situation. So we've talked to the proprietor. She's wholly in favor of this. I don't, you know, I'm speaking for her, but please talk to her. When I met with her last week, she was thrilled that we were able to come up with this. So that's what we're doing in that particular situation. Across the street, we've circled, this particular circle here is we spent a lot of time with the Baptist Church. We did a couple of things there. They have an access into their parking lot that is actually right at Chapel Street, right on the corner. Not really the best location for an access point. So what we've done is we've actually upgraded Chapel Street here and we're creating them an entrance onto their parking lot, the upper parking lot, about 25 to 30 feet away from the intersection. In addition to that, they have agreed, the plan that we showed you before did not include a sidewalk from Back River Road all along this side of 27 up to the church. And the reason it didn't include it was because there's no right-of-way there. The road itself was going to take up the space that the public ownership had. So the church has graciously granted us, or will grant us, a formal easement to construct a public sidewalk on their property adjacent to the roadway from Back River Road up to Chapel Street. So that will be a public sidewalk on private property through an easement situation. They're comfortable with that. Common drive. We had a conversation about common drive and how do we control traffic one-way direction from 27 southbound to the new parking lot that is now under a big pile of gravel. That would be one way from 27 to there, and then two-way from there around to the roundabout. That's going to be formalized as part of the project. We've actually added that into the project now, so there'll be some new pavement, some striping, the better controls so that people will know exactly which direction they're supposed to go, and it will be a little bit more orderly than it may be today. Over here on between Back River Road and Corey Lane, the relocated Corey Lane, this circle here, somebody mentioned, actually specifically referred to what happens to the connection that was suggested be made between Back River Road and Corey Lane. We had on a previous plan showed up some parking in front of the post office in the old roadbed of Corey Lane, and a grass connection between that parking lot and Back River Road for emergency vehicle use. We've since changed that idea, and now basically we've kept the parking. If you look, there's parking that shows up on your plan. They're in essence two separate parking lots. This parking lot here closer to Back River Road actually has direct pave access to Back River Road. So if you live off of Back River Road and want to go to the post office, you can actually come directly off of Back River Road and park in the parking lot. The issue is you can't get to Corey Lane. You have to turn around and go back out to Back River Road. Same is true on Corey Lane. You can pull in, then you back out. In the middle, between the two parking lots, is sort of a raised speed table. You've seen those in some areas with some metal bollards that block off the ability for you to drive through, but they're removable bollards. So if there's an emergency situation, the emergency people can remove those and actually direct traffic or have emergency vehicles be able to access that. So there is the ability to connect in a situation between directly from Back River Road to Corey Lane without going onto 27. So that's how we've addressed that. That's a change from what we saw back 3 or 4 weeks ago when I made a presentation here. And then down here, as testimony to the fact that I met with all the abutters, you can talk to Mr. McAvoy, who's in the back row here. I met with him, and the plan that we had a month ago or so showed narrowing up quite drastically his curb cut or access to his property. Well, when I went out and I looked at his property and how he's using his property, that wasn't going to work. He needs more ability to maneuver within his property, and so basically what we've done is enlarged his curb cut to basically keep it the same as it is today. So that was an improvement that was made, or a change that was made to respond to an abutter's concern and actually how things operate along the corridor. And we've done that. I've been very conscious to go through and meet with everybody. The only people I haven't met with at this point are the funeral home, and I've had a hard time catching up with Mike Hall, and also the owner of the Van Leen property here. We have an issue, not an issue, but we haven't talked to them. But those are the only two abutters at the present time that we haven't really talked to. So we're trying to make a concerted effort to make sure that those who are directly affected by the project are not negatively impacted, that they're all feeling good about what's happening. And I think that's kind of, we've been able to achieve that. So I wanted to start with that. There have been some changes to the plan, but I think in response to the question that was raised, I think we're pretty much there. I've told the selectmen that, I think we've covered all the bases. If we're going to continue, we need to lock down what we're doing. So the plan that we presented in the handout includes all of those, and that's going to be what you're actually voting on. So what shows on that plan is what we're doing at this point. So I brought a couple of other things that might be of interest to respond to some of the questions when you talk about if there's a project, if there's not a project, what are the differences? So let's talk about bike lanes. I think that's something that's people in some portion of the community is interested in is bikeability, and how does the proposed plan change or expand the ability to ride bikes safely in the community. Well, over here on the left, if you see, there's a blue line here that comes up, and this is the sidewalk project or the sidewalk bike lane project that was referred to earlier that goes down here to the Y and goes up to the park, Clifford Park. Well, as part of that project, a bike lane will be built up to basically about the crosswalk in front of the town office, between the common and the town office. That's basically the extent of where you would have a striped 5-foot lane coming from the harbor up the hill to there. It will stop there as part of that project. The project as proposed is over here on the right, and the green lines represent the bike lanes that will be included in that project. And if you're coming from the harbor, again, you will be able to come up to basically the same area here, up to the edge of the roundabout. In the northbound direction, you'll go around the roundabout, because if you remember the peer review comments that we had suggested that some people maybe are uncomfortable riding through the roundabout on a bike, so we've given them the ability to get off onto a multi-use path, go around the roundabout, and then access back onto 27. And that 5-foot shoulder is going to go all the way up to Adams Pond. In the southbound direction, if you were at the pond, you can get on a 5-foot bike lane, come all the way down here around the roundabout, and you'll get back onto merging into the travel lane heading down to the harbor, basically at this point, or the entrance to the new ambulance facility. So you can see in contrast, there's difference on bike facilities with and without the project. Now, somebody else mentioned sidewalks. What are the differences in terms of with a project, without a project? Again, the blue line here represents that sidewalk project, bike lane project that is already funded, that's going forward. And as you can see, it'll come up from the harbor, come up here to basically where the crosswalk is today. There'll be a crosswalk here, and then the sidewalk will continue up and stay on the brown side of Back River Road, and then cross over to Clifford Park, basically at this location. That's as currently designed. If the proposed project goes forward, then what will happen is from about here to here, that blue line will disappear, and you'll be replaced by the green sidewalks, which are here. The sidewalk will come up here, go around the roundabout, and then come up here. There'll be a sidewalk up to Clifford Park. There'll be a sidewalk up to the church. There will be sidewalks up Corey Lane, up to the post office, and a connection here. So there's more sidewalks in the proposed project than there would be if you didn't have a project. Green space, another concern of some residents in terms of how does the project impact public open space or public green space. What this plan shows, there's two different colors green. The dark green represents new public green space. The light green represents existing green space. So up here, starting at the north, there's a couple of areas here that are dark green in the center of the road. We're going to be creating raised medians that will separate the two directions of travel, and those will be planted, landscaped. So there's some greenery or some aesthetic enhancement of 27 coming down this way. When you get to the common, there's a median here separating the common and Memorial Park. And then this green strip here along the common here is kind of important because one of the things that the new design does is this curve here is actually softer or not as sharp as the one that's there today. And we've actually pushed the road to the, what would that be? If this is north, then that would be to the west, closer to the town office. So the net result is you probably get another 15 feet of green space in the common along that strip here from the roundabout up to Back River Road. So the common's actually going to get bigger. We're taking out this connector road of where Back River Road connects now around the one side of the monument. That will be turned into green space and expanded over here to the green space that's around the town office and the post office today. Then down here around the roundabout, this area here is now under private ownership. That will become public and that'll be green space, as will the interior part of the roundabout where the multi-use path is. So those will all be landscaped areas or green space that doesn't necessarily exist today. The total difference, if you're looking at acreage, is about a half an acre. More public green space than exists today with the plan. Parking. Parking was another issue that people had some concern about, and we've tried to do our best to address concerns on that particular topic. I've already talked about up here at Bet's Fish Fry, there's 9 spaces here that will be paved, striped, and controlled there to sort of clean up or organize activity that exists at that particular intersection. Over here at the post office, I believe there's, 18 to 20 spaces that will be provided on that roadbed, old roadbed, here between the 2 lots. Corey Lane, as it's relocated, there are 5 additional on-street parallel parking spaces that will be created. And then eventually, this area, central area here, this is where the existing parking area is for the town office and the connector road to get out and back. That area, while not officially part of the project, has the opportunity to expand some parking there as well. But unfortunately, because of budget constraints, we're not going to be doing a great deal in that interior part. But the fact is that parking has been recognized as an issue, and we've tried to address those concerns as we've gone along with the development of the design. So those, I think that sort of brings me to the plan here that you have in your hands, which is going to be attached, as I understand it, to the warrant articles.
It is.
And as has already been explained, what you see on that plan is what you're voting on, because that's the scope of what we've currently defined as the project that you'll be voting on. That's the $3.3 million will be used for.